and welcome back to my atelier or my artist studio. It's just a fancy French word. I just feel like it kind of enhances the experience of my studio. Anyway, today I'm super excited to dive into my top 3 tips for starting a new medium. And medium is another fancy art word. It just means the type of art that you're doing, whether it is watercolor painting, oil painting, graphite pencil, sculpture, photography, or what I'm going to be talking about a little bit more specifically is digital art. So I am a classically trained artist. I've been teaching art as well for many years now, almost a decade. Don't really want to talk about that. But I've been just really into the fine arts. And so this past year, a lot of the work that I do is digitized. So I decided to invest in an iPad Pro, an Apple Pencil, and kind of dive into digital media. And while I was working on this and kind of going through just the growing pains of learning a new medium, I started to talk to my students and realized that the techniques that I was using, the steps I was following in order to master something new and foreign to me, weren't necessarily as instinctive as I assumed that they were. So I'm going to share those with you now while it's still fresh because, like I said, I'm kind of going through this right now. So I've been able to kind of go back over these, see that yes, these things actually work and they help you to go from, like just kind of fumbling around and not sure what to do to actually being really comfortable in this platform or, for me, digital media and Procreate. So really excited to dive into this. I hope that you'll find this helpful. And without further ado, here's my top 3 tips. Tip number 1 is to have resources to burn. So whether you're learning watercolor and you just buy a pad of watercolor paper to go with your paints and you just assume that is going to be throwaway. You're just going to enjoy the process. For me, that is time right now because obviously I'm not throwing away anything on my iPad, but it's just I'm dedicating some time right now where there's no client projects, there's no pressure for me to create something beautiful. I'm just exploring. And I recommend doing this before you take a class or watch a tutorial or do anything with the medium. Think of it like your journey with art is kind of like a roadmap. And you start off at the beginning, you start off at home and your destination is, whether it's far away or closer, the biggest thing you can do at the beginning is just cover as much ground as possible. And so for you, putting in that work, so even if you paint something, you're like, this is terrible, that's still mileage. Don't get discouraged by that. That's you learning the paint, that's you realizing, okay, I keep way too much water on my brush, or maybe I'm not using enough water and everything's really patchy. How can I, add more water to do that? And that mileage that you cover while you're working and just your throwaway projects will help you so much. All right, tip number 2 is to focus. Similar to tip number 1, where I want you to have just like resources to burn, when you start actually kind of creating within your new medium, I want you to focus on a single subject. And now, that can be as broad or as narrow as you want it to be, but do try and narrow yourself a little bit. As artists, at least for me, I tend to be kind of like a dog where I'm constantly distracted by all kinds of things and, what my friend's doing, oh, I want to try that, and oh, I love that color palette too, and oh, I want to try that lettering thing, and oh, it's just so easy to get distracted and bombarded with different ideas. The best thing you can do is throw some blinders on, focus on one subject. And now by subject, I just mean something that's fairly broad, like flowers. You just work with whatever kind of flower you want. Obviously, that's what I did because flowers is kind of my thing, but it could be landscape, or maybe you do portraiture and just focus on that so that you're able to really grow deep in that area. The last thing you want to do with a new medium is be miles wide, try everything, but just once. And so you're really barely inches deep. What you want to do is you want to start in one section and get miles deep. That way, what you've learned about the medium, how to use it, and kind of the different quirks and different ways that it fits into your style will help you as you move on to the next section. So let's say you start with flowers. You're really good with flowers, watercolor flowers, and you've just grown so much and it's just it's amazing. You just love it. Well, when you move on to portraiture, you already know watercolor pretty well. So moving from flowers to portraiture, while there will be a learning curve, it will not be super hard to get miles deep. And that will help you, again, to master different subjects when you're ready to move on. So I would say take at least a week to learn and focus. I personally, I'm working on the iPad. I've spent 3 months. Now it's been a broken 3 months. I'm technically on maternity leave. I just had my twins. I'm not doing a lot, but I really want to master this medium. And again, that doesn't have to be super limiting. You don't have to do if you want to do animals, you don't have to do just cats. You could even do farm animals, but you don't even have to be that narrow. You could be just birds, or you could just do animals, you know, and something like that. So don't feel like this is crippling, but try and remember that this is a way that you can grow faster by just focusing. All right, tip number 3 is to slow down. So one thing that I see a lot with different artists, and I feel it in my own soul, is that when I start a new medium, usually it's because I'm interested in trying something, and in my head it's going to be really fast and easy. It won't be. I hate to burst your bubble, whether you're moving from colored pencil to watercolor like I did, or pen and paper illustrations moving to digital, it's not necessarily going to be faster, especially at the beginning. I think we, especially as artists, idealize different mediums, and we think, oh, it'll be so fast and easy just because certain elements of it might be easier. So like for water, I know I was a colored pencil artist and I switched to watercolor because I had a hand injury. And in my head, watercolor should be so much faster because it wasn't those little tiny pencil strokes. But it really isn't, especially if I wanted the detail and the sophistication that I was getting with my colored pencil illustrations. Now, some things are faster. Now, if I'm doing like a wash in the background, yeah, that's faster with watercolor. But in general, it wasn't necessarily faster, and some things are slower in watercolor as they are in colored pencil. Same thing with digital illustration. I grabbed this and I started working on it, and I was like, I'm going way too fast, because I'm just assuming that because it's already digitized, it's going to save me so much time. In some ways it was slower because I had to go back and correct things that were simplified because of the medium that I didn't want to be simplified. I wanted to look like I had done it by hand. So if you're going for the quality, especially the quality that you experience in other mediums, don't assume that a new medium will be a faster process. There's always exceptions to every rule, but especially at the beginning, slow down, make sure that you're really working through the process instead of assuming that it'll just be like, take a deep breath and slow down. As a bonus tip, something that I did while I was working through my iPad Procreate experience, I actually took my own flower drawing challenge. It is a free mini course, and even if you're not working with flowers, like if you decide to do barn animals or architecture, this course will help you as you are working through your new medium, just to kind of remember and work out through some things. You know, for me, day 3, I was like, oh, I know not to do this, and I totally was falling into this trap. And so I found this to be really helpful. If you think that that would be helpful for you, just to kind of go through some guided exercises to help you kind of capture that realism in a new medium, I'll have that linked down below. Again, it's totally free. It's 5 days. There's short little videos and there's a prompt for each one. Spoiler alert, day 1 has a lot to do with tip 1 of today, but after that, I promise you it will help you if it's a drawing process. If it's, you know, photography or ceramics, I can't necessarily help you with that with the flower drawing challenge. But anyway, I would love to hear from you. If there's any tips that you think that I left out, something that's helped you master a new medium, I would love to hear from you. Leave that in the comment section down below. If you are working on mastering a new medium and you feel like you need more help than what was in here, go ahead and check that comment section. I'm sure that there is just a wealth of information down there from other artists. I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And until next time, happy drawing!